As leaders from Latin America gather in Los Angeles for the Summit of the Americas, a massive caravan of migrants, the largest one so far this year, is traveling through Mexico. Their goal is to make it all the way to the U.S., many of them coming from Venezuela, Cuba, and Central America, and they're risking their lives by undertaking a journey on foot that will last for weeks and could end in tragedy. Correspondent Robert Sherman is tracking the group, who hopes to get world leaders' attention. He joins us tonight from the border. Robert.
And Rudabeh, organizers say that they want to show the world how difficult the living conditions are in some of these countries and what lengths they're prepared to go to improve them.
Marching on en masse, the largest migrant caravan seen this year is in its second day, heading for the U.S. Over 1,000 miles by foot through the scorching Mexican summer heat. Most coming from Central and South America, many fleeing economic hardship. That's what Jorgelis Diaz is doing.
We do this in order to give our children and us a better quality of life. It is awful to live in Venezuela. If we were doing well there, we would not have decided to leave our country like this, because this is hard. This trip is very hard.
Regional migration and economic challenges in Central and South America are slated to be chief topics of discussion at the Summit of the Americas, which is taking place in Los Angeles this week. The U.S. chose to exclude Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela from the event because their regimes have not been supportive of democracy. In light of the news, Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador says he's decided not to attend as well, believing all nations should be in attendance. Mexico has sent another diplomat in his place. So far this year, over 776,000 migrants have been encountered at the U.S.-Mexico border. But the four nations of note whose leaders will not be at the summit are the countries of origin for over 62% of those encounters. Some believe the migrant caravan is evidence that U.S. border policy is too weak and needs to be strengthened in order to deter migrants from making the journey, especially those who do not qualify for asylum.
We have to have policy. This does not need to be, the taxpayer does not need to shoulder this burden. This can be solved through policy and policy alone.
Others believe it's time for the U.S. to help bolster the economies of Central and South American nations to give people there a reason to stay. Inilia Mendoza is fleeing Venezuela as well and says that the U.S. was more involved in her country and the situation was better, she wouldn't be doing this.
If they can go to Venezuela and solve that situation, look, we would be happy to return to our homeland. That's what I long for the most, to return to my homeland.
So caravans like this one typically do not stay together. More often than not, they break apart and the migrants go off in different directions to different parts of the border. But the National Border Patrol Council says just about all of the migrants will, at some point, typically end up on the border. Rudabeh?
Robert Sherman for us on the border. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.